Join me today making this delicious chicken Florentine rice bake, completely from shelf-stable ingredients. Hey guys, it's Jara with Wicked Prepared. Welcome back to our channel. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our future uploads about prepping, food storage and pantry cooking, gardening, self-sufficiency. We've got a little bit of everything. Today we're going to be making a brand new meal in a jar. We're going to be making a chicken Florentine rice bake. Now you know I'm a huge fan of the meals in a jar. I just love the idea of having a complete nutritious meal all ready to go. Whether it's a grid down, serious emergency and you need to feed your family, or whether it's just a crazy busy day and you need to feed your family. A lot of people like to use this meal in a jar method to round out their food storage with complete meals that are low stress and easy to prepare. The method a lot of people use is to choose one recipe a month, and if you choose a recipe that uses some of the sale ingredients, you get more bang for your buck. They choose one recipe for the month and they make 10 to 12 jars. Now I would recommend before you put in the time and money commitment of making 10 to 12 jars of any recipe that you try that recipe once and see how your family likes it and tweak it to your taste if you need to, because just like any other type of recipe, everyone has different tastes. So I would make sure that you try out a recipe first and find the recipes that you like, and then you can make 10 to 12 jars every month of one recipe. Some people will get together and do this in groups, whether it be a group of friends, a group of sisters, church groups do this, social clubs. You could get together and do this in a group or do this on your own. In fact, thinking about this, I realized it would be kind of fun to do this kind of like a cookie swap, where everybody makes, say, a dozen jars of one thing, and then 3, 4, or 5 people get together and swap jars. So instead of having all those jars of the same meal, people will have all the different meals that everyone created if everyone created one separate meal. So I think that would be also a fun way to do it. But however you do it, doing 10 to 12 jars of one meal in 1 month and putting them away, and then the next month maybe you use 1 or 2 of those jars and make 10 or 12 of the next recipe. That's a really good way to build out your food storage with a variety of these delicious complete meals. The ingredients we're going to be putting into our rice bake are some rice, obviously, some grilled chicken dices, spinach. I'm going to be putting in a little bit of mushrooms because I like mushrooms and I think they go well with spinach, but if you don't like mushrooms, you can use something different. But we're going to be using some chopped onions, a couple of sauce mixes, and a seasoning, and all of these ingredients are going to be completely shelf stable. Now the grilled chicken is a brand new item, sort of. It's actually not a brand new item. Thrive Life has had grilled chicken for quite some time, but they just recently started cutting it into dices instead of slices. And this just showed up on my doorstep today. So I'm excited to be opening this up and seeing how the dices are and using it in a recipe. And I think it's a really great thing because now they have 3 different forms of chicken, because they have the regular seasoned chicken in slices, and they have the chopped chicken, which is sort of, you know, small, more irregular pieces of chicken that are not seasoned at all. So if you're on a low salt diet, that's what you're going to want to go with. And now these grilled chicken is going to be in dices, which I think is going to be great for a lot of recipes for putting on top of a salad, you know, anything like that. So I'm really excited to see how these are going to be. Now the tools that we're going to be using is we're going to have a quart size wide mouth mason jar. We're going to use a canning funnel to get our ingredients in more easily. And then we're going to need some measuring cups and spoons, and that's about it. I really love these measuring cups and spoons. I just upgraded because I couldn't read the markings on any of my old sets and they were all mismatched and lost, and so these are magnetic. So they'll magnet together, but they also will magnet onto the side of my fridge. And I just love that. I love having them handy. Now I'll put links for everything that I talk about down in the video description. I always get people asking where I find certain things, so all those links will be down in the description. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this can of grilled chicken so we can see what it's like inside. Now this is a family size can, so this is about a gallon size can of chicken. Alright, so there they are. There's the grilled chicken dices. You can see the grill marks. I don't know if you can see that, but they're diced pieces instead of slices. So now we're going to get started, and I am going to start with the rice. I am using instant white rice. This is just so this will cook more quickly. You could use a long grain rice. It would have to cook longer and the water amounts would be different. So I'm using instant white rice. You can also do this with instant brown rice, and that shouldn't change the cook time or the water amounts. So we're going to do 1 1/4 cups of the white rice. 1 1/4. Shake that right down to get that down in there. Next, I'm going to do the spinach just because I'd like my layers to look a little bit nice. So I'm going to put the colorful spinach right in between. Now, I love spinach as a way of sneaking extra nutrition into food. I used to use frozen chopped spinach all the time and just throw a little bit into just about any dish. I feel like the little bits, the kids don't notice it as much and they're getting extra nutrition. And I used to use the frozen chopped spinach that you have to thaw and you have to squeeze the liquid out of it. And this just makes it so much easier to sprinkle in a little bit. You can even powder this, or actually any freeze-dried vegetable or fruit you can powder. And then you can stir the powder into the food and it's really unnoticeable depending on what you're stirring it into. You can stir powdered spinach into spaghetti sauce, powdered butternut squash into macaroni and cheese, things like that, and they will never notice. Just a little added nutrition. So we're doing 1/2 cup of spinach. Here we go. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put in the chicken. So I'm going to do 1 cup of the chicken dices. A little bit more on there. Now you can see the jar starts to fill up pretty quickly. And what will happen is as I start to put some of the more powdery items in, they'll filter down in between the spaces of these larger items. So the next thing that we're going to add is some chopped onions. Now this is one of my absolute favorite items because onions is such a staple, I think, in everything that we cook, and I absolutely hate chopping raw onions. So to be able to just scoop like this is wonderful. We're going to be using 2 tablespoons of the chopped onion. And that's going to kind of filter right down in between those chicken chunks. So next we're going to add in some seasoning. I'm going to be using the Chef's Choice seasoning. This is Thrive Life's signature seasoning blend. It's a blend, it's a salty blend. You know, it does have salt added, so if you're on a low salt diet, you might want to leave this out. And if you don't have this seasoning, you could really substitute any multi-purpose seasoning blend that you enjoy. This is a teaspoon of this. And once again, that's gonna filter right down in among the other ingredients. So next we are going to, I'm going to put in the mushrooms next, and I'm just using 1/4 cup of mushrooms. Now, like I said, I really enjoy mushrooms and I feel like they go well with spinach, so this was my choice to add in. But if you are not a fan of mushrooms, you could leave these out or you could add something different. Any other vegetable that you think would go well in here. So now I've got a couple of sauce mixes that I am adding. The first one is called Veloute, and that is like a chicken gravy basically. I'm putting 1/4 cup of that. You have to really start to work this down now. And then I'm using a clean measuring cup for each ingredient. I don't know if it's just me, but I really don't like to scoop something with 1 spoon or cup and then scoop something else because I don't want those flavors to get into the container. I don't know, maybe I'm just strange, but I am using a clean measuring cup for each one of these ingredients. So this is called Bechamel, and it's basically a white sauce. And we're going to also put 1/4 cup of the Bechamel. So what this is kind of going to do in a way with the Veloute, the chicken gravy, and the white sauce, it's going to almost make like the effect of if you had put some cream of chicken soup in or something like that. You can always tap and jiggle to get your ingredients to go down in better. Okay, and then the final ingredient that we are adding is Parmesan cheese. Now this is freeze-dried shredded Parmesan cheese. You can kind of see that it's got the shreds. It's not the powdery shaker cheese. This is shredded freeze-dried Parmesan, and that's gonna be shelf stable in this jar. This is 1/3 of a cup. Okay, I've got that in. So that is our meal in a jar, our chicken Florentine rice bake. Now, if you were going to put this on your shelf and save this for an emergency, what you would do is, if you were going to eat it within a few months, or even everything in this jar is shelf stable once opened for at least a year. So you could really put a lid on this and it would be good for about a year if you had just opened all of your ingredients. But if you're going to save this for longer than a few months, I usually recommend doing an oxygen absorber and sealing it. But I'm going to cook this up today so that I can show you how it looks when it's prepared and how easy it is to prepare. There we go. All right, guys, let's get ready to mix this up. Now, if I was going to store this, I would put a label on it. I like to use these chalkboard tags that I got from Dollar Tree, but you could label it any way you wanted. I would also add directions, cooking instructions with this. Now, wouldn't this make a lovely gift for someone? But we are going to be cooking this tonight. So what I have here is a 8x8 or 9x9 inch pan. I'm not sure which this is, but it should work. Now we're just going to empty this right into the pan. And I'm going to add 3 cups of water. Now I don't like my rice dishes too soupy and too liquidy, so you can always add more water as it cooks if you think that it needs more water. I'm starting with 3 cups. You can already see that beautiful spinach starting to come back to life as it hits the water. I'm going to give this a stir and get everything moistened. Now I've got the oven behind me heating up to 350 degrees. Get this all stirred in. I'd like to use a whisk on this to make sure that all the sauce mix is incorporated, but I'm afraid I'll get my chicken chunks stuck inside my whisk, but I'm going to give it a try. These sauces are actually really pretty good with not getting clumpy, even if you add them into already boiling liquid. So where we're adding them in with cold water, I think it's going to be just fine, but I'm going to give it a whisk just in case. I can see those beautiful pieces of grilled chicken. There, that's pretty good. Just going to scrape down around the edge. Right, now I am just going to take you in just like this and show you how nice that looks all ready to go in the oven. Alright, so I've got this oven set to 350 and I'm going to put this right in. And we're going to cook for a total of 30 minutes and a little bit more if it needs it, but we're going to stir it halfway. So I'm setting the timer for 15 minutes. Alright, so the timer has gone off 15 minutes, half of the time, so I'm going to give this a stir. Wow, that's thickening up. Okay, that's thickening up nicely. And everything is refreshing and coming together. Okay, so I'm going to smooth that out. This smells amazing. You can see the mushrooms now. Okay, I'm going to put it back in the oven for another 15 minutes, but I'm going to keep an eye on it in case it starts to get too brown. Alright, there we go, guys. That is done. It smells amazing. I'm going to let that cool for just a minute and then we will dish some up and try it. Can you believe that started as freeze-dried food? All right, let's dish some of this out. That smells so good. All right, let's see how it is. That is delicious. Everything is tender. It's not soupy or runny. The rice is completely softened. That is so good. Get this mushroom. That's one of my favorite parts. Now that is a dish that I would be very thankful to have in my emergency pantry. Now as I was eating, I did notice a couple of pieces of chicken that could have been a little bit more tender. So if that happens to you, you might want to add an extra quarter cup of water or so. I wouldn't add much more than that because I liked how firm and not soupy the rice was. But you also could let it set for 10 minutes or so once you pour the water in and before you put it in the oven to give those things time to refresh a little bit more before they get into the oven. Now I did do this in an oven. There are grid down options for ovens, things like propane camp ovens, Dutch ovens with coals, cardboard box ovens with coals, also sun ovens are another option. But all those are more outdoor options, so if you don't have an indoor oven option at the moment, you can put this right into a skillet with the water, put a lid on it, and cook it that way, and it'll be just fine. If you need to thicken it up, you can take the lid off at the end. Thanks for coming along today and seeing how I put together this jar meal. If you enjoy meals in a jar, we have a whole playlist of recipes and we'll be adding more regularly. So go ahead and check that out and make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and if you made it all the way to the end, leave me a mushroom emoji. If you don't like mushrooms, leave me your favorite veggie. I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.